أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يقول الله عز وجل في كتاب الكريم والفرقان الحميد: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. أما بعد. The month of Ramadan is upon us, and as I said in previous khutab, Allahumma ballighna shahr Ramadan. One of the pious predecessors would say, oftentimes you can draw symmetry and an analogy of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala similarly to the relationship that a child has with their parents. And actually it's looking at that dynamic that actually helps us recognize where we are with Allah Rabbul Izzah. I have a very young nephew. If I ask him to do a task and I have a reward for him, he'll ask me, Uncle Ibrahim, show me the ice cream, show me the candy. Okay, show me the reward. Let me see it with my own two eyes. And this is what he wants from me before I ask him to go do a task. And as cute as that may look, this is how a lot of us are with Allah Rabbul Izzah. Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Those people who have iman and they do good deeds, Allah Rabbul Izzah will enter this person into Jannah. Khalidina fiha, for eternity. For the limited lifespan that you and I have on this earth, that we may spend perhaps maybe in aggregate, in completion, in whole, maybe perhaps a couple years in worship altogether. Allah Rabbul Izzah will exchange this life of ours in which we've wasted time. We went to work, we slept, we were in the bathroom, we sinned. He will exchange for us this life for a life of paradise. Khalidina fiha. May Allah Rabbul Izzah admit us into Jannah. This is the goal. But there's a problem. And the problem is the child wants to see the reward before he does the action. And sometimes if you don't show the child the consequence for their action, they will continue to do this action as if there are no consequences. But the fact of the matter, Ya ibadallah, O servants of Allah, there are consequences to our actions. Those consequences become ever so prevalent and become ever so visual to us in the month of Ramadan. One of the main complaints of the month of Ramadan that people have, subhanAllah, is that I've come to Ramadan and they're expecting the Shahr al-Mubarak, and it's a blessed month. They're expecting nur from the samawat to shine on this person, and it's supposed to change them 180 degrees. From the 11 months of ma'asi, from the 11 months of missing prayer, from the 11 months of being terrible to people, from the 11 months of backbiting and lying and slandering, from the 11 months of not having a presence in the house of Allah, from the 11 months out of the year that this person decided not to have a relationship with Allah Rabbul Izzah, they're expecting that the month of Ramadan is supposed to be this catalyst and it's going to change in 180 without any effort from their behalf. And man, is this a fool's hope. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah, he says we call this false hope amani, it's a fool's hope. And so the complaint is, this Ramadan doesn't hit. It's not the same. This Ramadan, it's not like it used to be. And they'll blame everything else. They'll blame the fact that the end of times are near. They'll blame the fact that the community is this way. They'll blame the fact that maybe it's family. They'll blame the fact that maybe it's their academics. They'll continue to blame. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is waiting for them to blame the one person who's truly at fault. And not us, that's ourselves. I want to spend this khutbah talking about a couple things that will ruin our Ramadan if we go into Ramadan not fixing anything. Because the fact of the matter, Ramadan is a blessed month and it's meant for change. But it's meant for change for those people who want to change. It's meant for change for those people who don't just want it in their heart. It's not enough, ya ibadallah. Allah Rabbul Izzah, He doesn't say in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and then He skips وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. They always come together. They're twins, they have to come together. Because the way our faith is engineered and structured is it's not enough that I know when the time of dhuhr comes in. That's the first step. That's the easiest step. It's not enough that I know that I have to treat mama and baba a very specific way. That's the first step. It's not enough that I know that I have to pick up this Quran and develop a relationship. That's the first step. It's not enough, ya ibadallah, that you and I know what's right from wrong and we can identify the rights. Anyone can do that. But can the believer do وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ? Can the believer actually act upon what they know now? This becomes a difficulty. Ramadan is not just about belief, but it's about action. And they have to come coupled together. And when they don't come coupled together, and you and I make dua in Ramadan, and we have the iman part, we believe, but then we don't want to put in the action, Ibn al-Qayyim says, fool is this person. And he actually would go on to say as well in Dawa, that this person, they probably have a livelihood, but they don't sit at home and expecting that money will come and fall into their lap. They're not expecting that money will actually pull into their bank account. They understand and they know that when the morning time comes on or whenever your shift is, you get up and you go to work. And you go to work because you believe in a system. And you believe that it's not enough that I went to go get my doctor's degree or I'm a lawyer, I'm a nurse, I'm an engineer, I'm whatever I am. I actually have to go in and work. This is the mindset of the believer for the month of Ramadan. But there are a couple things that will ruin that work. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah, he says anything in your life that's evil, anything in your life that you may see as a source of bad, he says you can almost always attribute that back to a deficiency that you have with Allah Rabbul Izzah. He says you can almost always attribute that back to the fact that there is a sin that you're indulged in, that you refuse to leave. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will now show you the alamat, He will show you the signs. And just like that kid who I spoke about in the very beginning, that child who doesn't understand consequence unless they're smacked with it, is the same way we are with Allah Rabbul Izzah. That oftentimes we are sinning. And to us, we don't believe there is a tangible, corporeal consequence of sin. But man, are we wrong. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah, he speaks about a few concepts here. One of the concepts that he speaks about is this understanding, and I've spoken about this before, he calls it wahsha. He calls it wahsha. Wahsha can be translated into estrangement. And if you're asking yourself, what does that mean? He breaks it up into three categories. And he says, number one, the solution to fixing your relationship with Allah Rabbul Izzah it has to be tawbah. It has to be you returning back to Allah. But for the servant that refuses to do this, for the servant of Allah that decides to continue on sinning and they don't make tawbah, Allah Rabbul Izzah down the line will give them this thing called wahsha. And the first stage of wahsha, the first stage of this cancer, which is arguably the worst stage, is wahsha between you and Allah Rabbul Izzah. So now when you arrive to Ramadan, and you're expecting, because Ramadan's supposed to be Shahr Mubarak, right? It's this month of mercy. You're expecting that when I come for Taraweeh, my emotions will overwhelm me and I'll feel amazing at Taraweeh. But then you come for Taraweeh and it's as if it wasn't Ramadan. Heart is empty. No khushu'. You don't feel the actual salah. And subhanAllah, you don't feel that your daraja, your level with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going up. And the reason why is because there is a sin that you're stuck with, that you and I are stuck with, that we haven't made istighfar for. We haven't asked Allah for tawbah for. We haven't apologized to Him. And so now what Allah Rabbul Izzah has ultimately done is He's put a ceiling of how close you can get to Him. Because there was no tawbah. There was no system of closure. I'll give the example of a kid again. A kid that may go smack another kid doesn't have the complexities to understand that I gotta come back around and apologize to make this relationship whole once again. Typically a parent has to come, go apologize to so-and-so, apologize. Give them a hug, give them a boost on their forehead, make sure everything's okay. And the kid understands, cool. In order to have a closure, in order to apologize, in order to be good again with this person, I must apologize to them. Tawbah is an apology. But just like children, the way we are with Allah Rabbul Izzah is we don't apologize to Him. And then we wonder to ourselves, why do I not have a connection with Allah Rabbul Izzah? You and I lack a connection because there are this haram that you and I are entrenched in. And we refuse to apologize. So Allah Rabbul Izzah, to give you and I a sign to return, He's put wahsha in our lives, which is a consequence. And so it's a ceiling of how close you can get to Allah Rabbul Izzah. So now when you stand for prayer, now when you pick up the Quran, now when you make dua, now when you want to do something good or khair for yourself because there's still good in the hearts, you can't. And now you feel uncomfortable. Now salah, it isn't like it used to be. When you make dua, it feels uncomfortable because you've put a strain and discomfort in this relationship between you and Allah Rabbul Izzah. May Allah Rabbul Izzah protect us all. The second stage of wahsha, he says, is that this person continues to sin, so much so that now Allah Rabbul Izzah, He injects wahsha into this person, but now it's between them and family and friends. And so now with your family and friends, relationships begin to deteriorate. Things at home aren't what they used to be. Things with your friend group aren't what they used to be. Family and friends become uncomfortable, not with you, but with the version of yourself that you refuse to leave. They love you. And if you were to leave that specific sin that you're entrenched in, they would love you. And things would slowly return back. But they have become strange or uncomfortable with the version that you decide not to leave. Allah protect us. And this happens. The breaking down of the family unit, it happens. And a big reason as to why it happens is because of ma'asi, because of sin. And we don't go back to Allah Rabbul Izzah and ask Allah Rabbul Izzah, Ya Allah, protect me, but forgive me, Ya Allah. I've messed up. And it's not anyone else's fault. It's not Mama and Baba's fault. It's not the Imam's fault. It's not my mentor's fault. It's not my professor's fault. It's not my friend's fault. Because that's not tawbah. What you've done is what shaitan did, to be honest. His mistake with Allah Rabbul Izzah is, Ya Allah, I'm made of fire, He's made of clay. Obviously, I'm better than him. Then when he's called out, shaitan, instead of looking inward, he looked outward and he began to blame Allah Rabbul Izzah for his mistake. It's that lack of self-accountability that's tied to shaitan that actually that will be a disqualifier to your tawbah, not having accountability, because now you actually don't believe you're at fault. In reality, you are at fault. Allah protect us all. That's the second stage of wahsha. Ibn al-Qayyim, he continues and he says the third stage of wahsha, and it's a scary stage, is when you go and you look in that mirror, because now your relationship with Allah Rabbul Izzah is uncomfortable, but you've put strain there. With family, it's also uncomfortable, but you've also put strain there. He says the third one, you look in the mirror and you cannot recognize yourself. And you can't recognize yourself because you've allowed this specific sin. You've allowed your disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to swallow you whole. And so now you've developed wahsha, all stages of wahsha. But he says, don't ever lose hope. إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرُونَ. The only people who lose faith in Allah Rabbul Izzah are those people who don't believe in Him. So he says the solution is always tawbah. So if you and I do not rectify our sins before the month of Ramadan, you will arrive to Ramadan expecting to have a month of change. But instead, it will be a month of stagnation because you've allowed that sin to take you over and put a ceiling between you and Allah Rabbul Izzah. May Allah protect us all. I want to share two more if time permits. One for sure. We'll see if time permits. Number two. If you and I do not rectify ourselves before the month of Ramadan, expecting to have this month of change, which is the most difficult part of Ramadan, right? It's not the water, it's not the food like your non-Muslim co-workers may say it is. It's change. But you and I will struggle to change if we do not go back and rectify our sins. And so Ibn al-Qayyim, he says something amazing here. And he says, someone continues this path of sin until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes all resolve of good in their hearts. What does that even mean? This person arrives in the month of Ramadan, and now this person actually, you know how we say we can't wait for Ramadan? This person could actually wait because they weren't looking forward to it. And they weren't looking forward to Ramadan because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this illusion. Ibn al-Qayyim says, you're a prisoner, but you get to choose your sentence. Amma, you're a prisoner here in this dunya, or you're a prisoner in the akhirah. And if you're a prisoner in this dunya, it's a beautiful prison. Because the person who puts you in that prison absolutely loves you, and he's constructed this prison with boundaries. But if you choose to be in the prison of the akhirah, man, is this prison tough. And that prison is Jahannam. Allah protect us all. Ibn al-Qayyim says here, though, that for this specific believer, they have no resolve in their hearts. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this illusion that their Jannah is no longer in the Akhirah, but their Jannah now is here. And they think to themselves, man, I'm living a great lifestyle. I got this beautiful car. I got this beautiful house by the lake. I got this great savings account. I have this, I have that. And they think to themselves for a second that Allah Rabbul Izzah has favored me. He's given me bounty. He loves me. He's given me wealth. He's given me everything I could have ever asked for. And that whole thing about Iman, forget about it. I'm living life. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them an illusion. And He's taken them for this trip. And they think to themselves for a second that I'm cool, I'm chilling, I'm okay. حَتَّى زُرْتُمُ الْمَقَابِرِ. Until you hit that grave and you realize this life that you were living, that you thought was amazing, it's an illusion. It's an illusion. When Allah Rabbul Izzah moves from your heart the resolve to do good, this is the result of that lifestyle. Because someone asked me, they go, and he was very upfront with me. He goes, I do things X, Y, Z, but I go to U of M. I drive a nice car. We have a very nice house. I go on 3 vacations a year. Isn't Allah supposed to take this away from me? And it goes back to the mentality of that kid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for this dunya of ours that we think is amazing, to Him, it's not the wing of a fly. So He'll give it to whomever. He gave it to Fir'aun. Allah Rabbul Izzah did not love Fir'aun. He gave it to the tyrants of this world. He doesn't love the tyrants of this world. But for those people whom He truly loves, they're the people that you'll see in the masajid every single day. They're the people that have a relationship with the Quran. They're the people that are consistent in prayer. They're the people of Iman and Taqwa. Those are the people whom Allah loves, and He's given them resolve for good in their heart. So when salah time comes around, they don't have kasr, they're not lazy. They don't have ajaz, an inability to do good. Allah blesses them with the resolve for good. And so when iftar comes around and you eat, you're so careful to eat not too much food because you want to come to the masjid and you want to crank out rak'at for tarawih. You want to come back later on for tahajjud. You want to come to the masjid and pour your heart out. You want to crack that mushaf open and do your khatam. You want to do good. But that's removed from one's heart in Ramadan. You will suffer this Ramadan. You will not enjoy that experience this Ramadan if you do not leave the sin that plagues our lives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So just once again, this Ramadan of ours will not be the Ramadan of our dreams. It will not be the Ramadan of change if we do not leave behind ma'asi, disobedience towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn al-Qayyim though, he wants to establish something important and he says, you need to have hope in Allah. And that hope is not anchored in you. No, it's anchored in something much greater, and that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, the way you find yourself out of this rut is that you continuously make tawbah. You continuously make tawbah. The last thing I want to add onto this list is a last consequence of ma'asi. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, he says something absolutely amazing here. He says someone that is indulged in ma'asi, in disobedience towards Allah, they do so much so that this person, Allah Rabbul Izzah, He removes their ability to have good company. The funny thing here is that one of the solutions for getting out of ma'asi is good company. That's one of the solutions. If you're broke and you don't have money, to be rich, you don't spend time around people that don't have money. You want to spend time around people that have money. So whatever goal you're trying to establish, you want to be around people that are like-minded or that are accomplished. Ibn al-Qayyim says the way you leave ma'asi is through good company, but also the consequence of ma'asi is he takes good company away from you and he replaces it with company that are just like you. And so if you're somebody during the month of Ramadan that loves to not pray tarawih and you stay away, not to say you're sinning, then you'll have the company of people that also skip tarawih. If you're the type of person in Ramadan that doesn't catch your prayers 5 times a day because you didn't establish that before Ramadan, then the company that you have are not people that are trying to catch their prayers on time. You now have the company of people that skip their prayers. If you're someone in Ramadan that is entrenched in disobedience or in a specific sin, whatever it may be, whether it is haram relationships, whether it's drugs, whether it's haram money, whatever it may be, He now gives you the company that you are deserving of, and so that's your company now. Allah protect us. He says for this person, it becomes difficult to climb out of the sin because now that's your entire environment. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's put you in this state of ghafla, of heedlessness, and it's difficult to wake up from the slumber. But He says there is a solution, and I'll leave off on this note inshallah ta'ala. He says there is a solution, and this is the solution for us going into Ramadan. As He says, the solution is love. The solution has to be love. And so he says, and he asks this question in the book, and it's a rhetorical question. He says, for someone that loves another person, is it possible that they harm this person? He says, maybe, perhaps. It happens. Husband and wife, friends, it happens. But he says, subhanAllah, he says, is it possible that this person that has this love with this person, whether it's spouse or friends or whatever it may be, he says, is it fathomable that they allow that relationship to stay broken? Never. Because you love that person. And so he says ultimately here that the only way the strongest way that you remove yourself from this rut and you prepare yourself for Ramadan is you begin to weigh things on a scale. And you ask yourself, my love for whatever haram this is that I'm engaged in, stealing, backbiting, lying, haram relationships, haram money, whatever it is. He says, that's on one side of the scale. But he says, where's your love for Allah? And he says, if the sin that you're entrenched in, if the sin that you're doing consistently, if that takes you away from Allah, you don't love Allah enough. So he says, either you develop a love or a fear for Him. And that fear or love has to outweigh your addiction. It has to outweigh your loyalty towards that sin. And the moment you begin to have clear mind, the moment you begin to make tawbah, the moment you begin to turn your friend group around, the moment you begin to be in spaces where Allah's name is being elevated, he says it's then that you'll find yourself turning away from the sin, slowly but surely. But he says, don't be a fool. Fool is the person who hops onto a horse, and horses are powerful. You hop onto a horse, and you allow it to take you wherever. You have to conquer that horse, and you have to show the horse there's zero fear. He says, fool is the person that conquers their sin, and they think to themselves, you know what, I'm all good to go now. And you let that horse go. That horse will take you for a trip. It will take you for a ride. So he says, the same way you have with ma'asi, if you conquer that sin, amazing, great. Hold those reins. Hold those reins. So going into the month of Ramadan, the main theme here is we need to sit with ourselves and ask ourselves, what ma'asi, what disobedience, what sin do I have in my life that's preventing me from getting close to Allah? And whatever that is, how can I resolve this before Ramadan? Or how can I start the resolve going into Ramadan? And it's then that when you go into Ramadan and you have a great month and you sacrifice and you pray and you make dua and you're in the masjid and you're doing so much ibadah, that when Eid time comes around, you're not going to say, man, this Eid's not like the years prior. You can actually celebrate Eid, because Eid is a celebration for those who sacrifice, not for those people who are on autopilot during the month of Ramadan. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us a very blessed month of Ramadan. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forgives our sins. I pray to Allah Rabbul Izzah, He rectifies our hearts. I pray to Allah Rabbul Izzah, He protects our families. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He protects the families of the Muslims around the world. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us nur. I pray to Allah Rabbul Izzah, He makes us people of the Quran. I pray to Allah Rabbul Izzah that He gives us a truthful tongue on Qiyamah. I pray to Allah Rabbul Izzah that as He's gathered us all here today for this khutbah, He gathered us all in Firdaus al-A'la. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على حبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم بلغنا شهر رمضان أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قامت الصلاة قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين سمع الله لمن حمده